Hello traders, welcome to the weekly Algorithmic Setups volume 297. Iliya here, and of course you know the drill. We're gonna get into the markets, have a look at all the pairs, how they developed this week, what kind of setups we had, and most importantly try to make some forecasts for the upcoming week. The first week of August was pretty slow, we didn't have any news. However, right now, the week that is about to develop, we're going to be having some important news. So let's start the analysis with the economic calendar and then jump into the technicals. On Monday, we're starting pretty slow with no overall news, just a bank holiday in Japan. However, we should always be aware of what is happening during the weekends because currently with Trump tariffs, with developments over the macroeconomics, I have spotted that Mondays tend to be extremely huge. They didn't used to be like that, but in the current market conditions, Mondays very often they just open and they just absolutely go ballistic, right? So you should be very careful. Tuesday, we're having a cash rate here for the Aussie, GBP news, a little bit medium impact, and then we're having CPI for the USD. So Tuesday is going to be the first big day. I am absolutely going to be trading after this news release. I'm going to be trading on Wednesday as well. We don't have any USD news, but that's okay. We're going to be trading after CPI, so Wednesday is likely going to be very good. And then on Thursday, we have some other Aussie news. So a lot of Aussie news this week. Aussie news here, Aussie news here, Aussie news here. So maybe if you're trading Aussie dollar, maybe you pay attention. And then we have PPI for the US dollar and of course unemployment claims. So very nice day on Thursday. And then on Friday, some bank holidays here in Europe. But then we also have retail sales here and preliminary consumer sentiment and inflation expectations for the dollar. Looks like a pretty good week. Monday is a potential skip because no news. But of course, Mondays, as I told you, they tend to be driven by over the weekend news, and then after Tuesday everything is tradable, so it's really time to focus. With that being said, let's jump into the charts. All right, as always, we are gonna get started with the Dixie. Now, the Dixie was quite choppy this week. However, I still managed to pull out a profitable week. If I managed to pull out my TradeZella stats right here, a pretty nice week, pretty good win rates during the days. I didn't trade on Monday, and then Wednesday was a little bit tough. Tuesday was great, took some nice gold trades, and then on ES it was a little bit messy. Thursday was the best day, and then Friday just one trade on ES because gold was choppy. So starting pretty good. However, I have decided to even further minimize my pair. So right now I'm only trading 2 instruments for my own trading, just doing a little bit of an experiment. But of course, I'm going to be analyzing every single thing to still spot some high probability setups that could be coming in. Now, on the DXY on the weekly time frame, we don't have much to reflect here because it was a pretty slow week. Like comparing it to the previous one, this week is an inside bar. So right now what we can do is, of course, we can attack both sides of the liquidity. One of the liquidity is going to be the previous weekly high in this case, and then the other one is going to be that weekly swing low. So now which direction are we going to pick up? Well, that is the hard part. On the monthly time frame, we do have that monthly imbalance here. Is the market going to bring us all the way up there? I don't know. I really thought we could actually go after seeing that July massively pop. I was like, okay, we're finally going to see the dollar appreciate, but so far, we have been a week overall into August, and we're not seeing it. Now, is it gonna pop? We don't know. Dropping onto the daily time frame, this is where it also starts getting a little bit tricky, but not as tricky because we made this very beautiful move, and I really kind of started getting confident for longs. We had this push, pullback, higher low formation for a new higher high, breaking structure. I was like, okay, right, finally, the DXY is gonna recover. But unfortunately, not really. The market reached here a high, it took some liquidity to the left, it printed a daily bearish imbalance, pulled back into it, respected it beautifully, and right now we do have another daily bearish imbalance. If you look to the left, the only thing that could potentially stop the market was this daily bullish. So pretty much this week the market was stuck between these two levels. Like we were having a look on Friday, on Saturday for example, but the market was about to form a daily bearish. It did form it on Monday, and then Tuesday tapped it, and then we're like, okay, so is this daily bearish gonna flush the market into the daily bullish? And it did, okay? But then a little bit hesitation to trade on Thursday because we're tapping into that daily. So not a lot of great trades this week for the Forex pairs. But overall, looks bearish to me right now. With this daily bearish imbalance, that is a really good area to potentially be looking for shorts. And then, of course, if we transfer onto the hourly time frame to just really quickly read the order flow and the liquidity, we had this hourly bearish imbalance here. Okay, the market tried to hold from it, but so far we can see that it's actually failing. And if that is failing, then this could potentially expose the next liquidity level, which is going to be that high. And of course, a more recent high is going to be that one. And then from there, we really have to see, is the dollar going to pick up some steam? Okay, so as always, everybody, I'm going to be giving you two scenarios. Now, of course, I try to have a little bit more of a stricter bias, but I only do this because of you, because a lot of you want to see like a strict development, which is exactly how you should not be trading. Okay, but overall, what I would expect to happen is for the market to take at least that liquidity, maybe even jump into the daily, and then from there I'm only going to be looking for alignment bearish to see if the shorts are going to prevail. And then of course the next outlook will be for the market to open up and to really pop lower with some imbalances towards this liquidity point. So those are my two scenarios. I would prefer shorts, honestly. Even on the macroeconomic side of things right now, tariffs are finally starting to get a little bit more into effect. Trump imposed further tariffs on gold, 1 kilogram bars from Switzerland. But overall, it's not as bad as expected. But we can see right now, as they kind of went into effect, the market is right now starting again to get a little bit more pessimistic. And we might see, for example, gold, USD, JPY, all of these safe haven currencies and assets to potentially go higher. So overall bearish on the dollar. This is a really interesting zone for me to be looking for shorts. So let's see if it gets reached, or if it just starts popping lower on a Monday, then guess what, everybody? We have to flow with it. Euro USD, pretty boring week. You can see we're having an inside bar right now, so we can be expecting some sort of a breakout, or at least a liquidity grab of the mother candle, which in this case is that one. But of course, the market is also going to be having this tighter range, which is going to be the previous weekly high and low. In terms of the weekly, we kind of had this weekly imbalance. The market failed to follow through from it. Then this became liquidity. But when we took out that low here, we massively rejected. So again, that made me think, okay, are we going to go all the way lower? Looking at it right now, this candle does not give me a lot of bullishness. And I told you on the DXY that I'm more short biased, but let's see if really the buyers are gonna kick in again. Now, so far this week, they actually kicked in a little bit. So we had that daily bullish imbalance here, and the market was also about to be encountering that bearish one. So a pretty big sandwich here. But the market tapped into the daily bullish and printed a beautiful Wednesday candle. And then on Thursday, it also formed another daily bullish. So this to me right now is a pretty bullish sign. A pretty bullish sign, and what I would really love, for example, for a setup will be to pull back into the daily and then to potentially just attack the low-hanging fruit liquidity, which is going to be that swing high here. Okay, that will be a very nice and simple outlook. However, it's never that simple, because the market is going to open up on Monday, some sort of new sentiment is going to get introduced into the market, and then as usual, we are going to be flowing. Now, on the hourly time frame, also very mixed up. We had a hourly bearish here, then we had a small hourly bullish here, and then suddenly we're having a small hourly bearish here. Like, this to me is a consolidation. This is the market compressing right now for a potential move where we don't know yet. Now, similar to the DXY, let's for example take into account that very last hourly bearish imbalance, because that seems to be holding so far. It's extremely little, though. Usually I don't take these little ones, because on another broker there's not going to be an imbalance here, very likely, but we're respecting it very nicely right now. So if the market manages to give like a little pop to the downside to take me into that daily zone, that is going to be an opportunity by itself. Okay, trading into the zone. And now, of course, after the zone is tapped, then of course it's a big question mark. Okay, here, are we gonna potentially, for example, reverse higher and start attacking all of these small liquidity levels here, this one and that one? Or are we gonna tap, react, and continue to go bearish, and then of course attack the next liquidity target? So again, so many things could happen, and I am not very certain of the bullish bias. Looking at the weekly candle, it kind of looks like we are pulling back a little bit in order to make another flush. We do have a lot of USD news next week. The tariff developments are still about to develop. I do believe that some other countries could potentially reach some more deals, and when they do a deal, that is usually positive for the US dollar. And then of course the dollar can continue the appreciation that it started so well. Like the euro absolutely flushed. But again, is that manipulation for the market to reverse higher, or is that the actual move? And right now the market is making a corrective pullback to potentially flush again. We don't know. So what we have to be doing is reading the daily, reading the hourly time frame, and of course, as day traders, just flow towards the low hanging fruits. So currently, to me, bearish into that daily zone. Hopefully, if the market gives me some sort of an opportunity, then from the daily, are we going to go higher? And of course, you're always going to have a third scenario. The market opens up, it invalidates that high, builds a little bit of a bullishness here above this structural high, and then it gives us a quick long into the opposing side of the liquidity. So those are going to be my potential outcomes on EU. Again, wait for Monday to open. Let's see where the market's going to guide you. And usually you're going to get your best setups from Tuesday to Thursday. Well, looking at GU on the first glance, pretty bullish. Like, look at the weekly candle on GU and look at the weekly candle on EU. Okay, GU is definitely a lot stronger. It's almost closing above the previous weekly high. So very good sign right here for bullishness. Now, monthly time frame, did we tap? Oh, did we tap into that one, or we just missed it? Yeah, we just missed it. Maybe on another broker it tapped it, but a very important monthly zone here. But it seems like the market just missed it. Maybe if I check, for example, GBP USD on, I don't know, on Awanda, maybe tapped it. No. GBP USD on, what else? Pepperstone. No, nothing tapped it. Well, okay. So very nice bullish development here. Transferring immediately onto the daily time frame. Yes, we're having 2 consecutive bullish imbalances here on the daily. And right now, this looks like a pretty nice long opportunity. However, the market is encountering right now a daily, what I call a daily reaction area, where the market could potentially react from. However, this reaction area can only take us into the actual order flow right now, that is bullish, and then from there we can be looking for the longs. On the hourly time frame, we don't really have anything. The market kind of came into the daily, reacted, and then it came in and took the liquidity. So currently, if you're looking at like the positioning of price, it is pretty bad. You don't want to be shorting a bullish market, and you cannot long because the market is just making a hard high. So what I can say in that case for longs is, again, just wait for the daily, wait for it to align, and then of course continue going higher. Can it just open up and absolutely rally? It can. Okay, it can. Like if it opens up and rallies, you can of course continue to follow it, but I'm a little bit mixed up. DXY kind of gave me a little bit mixed vibes. EU gave me like also a little bit mixed vibes, but GU is giving me a lot of long vibes. I really like this push. I really like how the weekly candle looks like. I really like how the daily time frame looks like. Now, the main thing is right now, we are making some macro lower highs. So can this be another lower high right here? That is the very big question, everybody. And of course, we're going to see this as the market develops. If we flush and we absolutely destroy these daily imbalances, I'm going to be the first to have shifted my bias and to start targeting all of these lows. It's that easy, okay? So no forecast, not too much predicting. Have your zones, know what you're looking for, know your scenarios, and just show up and wait. But overall, again, you want it, I give you my bias, I'm overall longs. However, I need the zone to go long, and my current zone only is that daily imbalance. So when the market taps into that daily imbalance, I'm going to be looking for entry models to see if it's going to guide me higher. So let's see. We saw in the economic calendar, it's going to be a pretty busy week for Aussie dollar. So is it going to move? Well, I don't care because I am absolutely not touching this pair, and I haven't touched it for a while. Just because, again, I say this every analysis, but look at that price action on the weekly time frame. This is just bad, okay? Dropping onto the daily time frame, let's see. So similar to the rest of the pairs, everybody, it's giving me a very mixed bias. It's having that massive flush, and right now the market is, however, recovering with a lot of pressure as well. So we're having, again, you can see daily bullish imbalances here that signify that buyers are really taking over with momentum to the upside. We are encountering right now this, what I call, again, a reaction area. Okay. However, I'm still pretty puzzled, like across all the pairs, that is a flush and that is a lower high. On GU, we have lower low, lower high, lower low. So this is a trend established. On EU as well, high, low, lower high, lower low. That could be a lower high. And DXY is in an overall uptrend. So is the macro structure going to take over in that case? Or are the most recent imbalances, which is the most recent momentum, actually gonna take over? Again, I use both of them. This is why I'm currently a little bit puzzled and I don't have a very precise bias. Now, here on the daily time frame, we have 2 imbalances. On the hourly time frame, it's absolutely chopped up. So again, I would say it's pretty close to that, the first daily bullish. So let's see if it taps. Let's see if it offers us some sort of long setups. And then of course you can be chasing the low hanging fruits. Those are your 2 liquidity levels here. Let's see if it's gonna take us maybe into the lower one. And then from there, what is gonna happen, we don't know. Pretty extremely mixed up bias on Aussie dollar, and even if you're looking to trade that pair, it is extremely choppy. Like you see here, it kind of gave us a volatility bullish, it tried, it failed, and then chop, 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 no imbalances whatsoever. A little one right here, but then chop, chop, and then suddenly rocketed a little bit on Thursday during Asia, and then massively reversed. Extremely choppy pair. I have no idea who would be trading Aussie dollar right now, but here is my outlook. I'm really not bearish. I'm really not bullish. Currently, I am more bullish than bearish. However, if I start seeing sellers kick in, okay, that then would turn this into a pullback, and then all of these liquidity points here are going to get targeted, and we're very likely going to have a big flush. So again, very important next week and into the incoming weeks, as we're going to start having some more news. Monitor, follow these hard time frames, and the first signs you start seeing of sellers, for example, on EU, GU, or Aussie dollar, could be go time. NZAUUSD. Let's take a quick look. Now, the first thing that I see is that the market took liquidity here last week, and then this week it's an inside bar, so not giving us a lot of information. Dropping onto the daily time frame, again, all the pairs look the same right now. They are having a very massive flush. In fact, here we're having, again, bearish market structure. But then zooming in a little bit here on the daily, we have an extremely small imbalance that I'm not gonna draw. And then we have this bullish imbalance that we closed with on Friday. To the left, again, we have that same reactionary that we have across all the pairs. So yeah, can we tap into the daily to take us higher? Are we going to invalidate the daily and continue with the bearish? Like, all of these pairs are like contradicting me today. I see this very bearish. Beautiful flush lower, beautiful corrective pullback. In this case, I would even say, let me wait for that daily to fail and try to go short towards these liquidities, okay? However, when I saw GU to me looks extremely strong. It kind of looks like you just want to pull back, make a higher low, and then start invalidating the bearish structure. EU is also looking pretty bullish, while Aussie dollar, for example, and NZD dollar are not looking like that. So we really have to be careful right now with the dollar, with the DXY, namely, and see what it actually wants to do. Dropping on the volatility time frame, extremely mixed up. Here, especially like the last 2 days, there was a little volatility bullish imbalance here that got tapped and actually took liquidity. So that is a nice trading opportunity, something that me and my community would take. But then after that, extreme chop. So let's see. Is it going to tap that daily? Is it going to hold? Is it going to take us into the liquidity? First liquidity here, and then of course second is going to be the imbalance. Or are we absolutely going to blast through that daily with some sentiment introduced over the weekend? Print some volatility bearish imbalances, and then of course start attacking all the liquidity. There is liquidity number 1 right there, and then of course you can find all the rest below here. So let's see. I am very 50-50 on this one. I'm extremely neutral, but this is how I trade. I never have a bias. I just show up every single day. I just listen to the market, what it wants to tell me, and then of course I flow with it. Since I started doing this, my trading is absolutely rocketing. So I suggest you do the same as well. No bias, just show up. Have your zones, have your liquidity levels, and just see where the market wants to guide you. And the best time frames to do that are the volatility and the 1 hourly. So let us see. Alrighty, let's have a look at GOAT. It has been a good week. I took 2 wins this week. However, we didn't really have a very nice follow through on GOAT for quite a while. If you have a look at the weekly time frame, we have been pretty choppy. However, GOAT always tends to provide. We're currently sweeping that weekly swing point here. We had a little bit of a gap, and we also had some news here on Friday, kind of on Thursday evening for me into Friday, that the US are going to impose further tariffs on gold imported from Switzerland, like 1 kilogram bars. And that kind of made gold pop a little bit. And I do read a couple of articles that a lot of investors, traders, and even people that want to preserve their wealth are starting to buy even more gold. So we can see right now, again, the uncertain times, when they start kicking back in, gold immediately starts to increase in value. However, we have been stuck in a consolidation for quite a while here, and that is the daily time frame. So we had, of course, a beautiful run here, but right now, pretty messed up. Okay, and we're having these like very small, very sluggish days. This week, honestly, I have no idea how I made profit looking at these daily candles. Absolutely minuscule. However, still, if you can read the higher time frames as well, but if you can master the lower time frames as well, you can always find setups. Now, daily bullish imbalance here, massive sweep of that liquidity. We're having an extremely small daily imbalance, like an imbalance that looks like this. It's not something that I would really look to trade from, but of course we can entertain it. There is an extremely small, wow, gold looks really shitty right now. There is an extremely small 4-hourly bearish imbalance here, but we can't even see it. But looking at it, for example, we had that 4-hourly bullish here, tapped in, tried to push, failed. Okay, so that then to me could expose this liquidity level, and this liquidity level we can definitely tap, also tapping into the daily. So I can say maybe something like this, and then from there, is it gonna pop higher with bullishness, or is it gonna take us to the next liquidity point? We do not know. Okay, we do not know. But this daily imbalance looking pretty good to get tapped. We're having a little bit of a bearish pressure here, closing in on Friday. Friday I didn't trade. It was extremely messed up. But then towards the end of the day here, we had a little flush. And that kind of flush could be the momentum that is needed to potentially push the market a little bit lower to collect some liquidity, because I really do see the exhaustion here of price after it collected, for example, that crazy low right here. So are we gonna come in to sweep a little bit to take some of these lows here to stop out some buyers? This is definitely something that I'm gonna be looking for. Now, am I calling a short goat? No, I never call things. I'm just gonna jump in, look for Monday to print out a little bit, show me what it wants to do. If it wants to go higher, I'm gonna long it. If it wants to go short, I'm gonna short it. That's how I trade, especially gold. So, but let's see. I am a little bit more bearish right now. We do have a very nice 1-hourly zone here. We do have a very small 4-hourly zone as well. But this kind of area here is going to be a very nice area of resistance. And if sellers kick in, that could take us into a very nice short into that daily imbalance and into that liquidity. That is a weak low. Why is that a weak low? Well, because from this low to that high, we failed to really follow through and take out that high. So then to me, this low becomes liquidity. So that is how I would tackle the market if, for example, it was a Tuesday or a Wednesday. But right now, over the weekends, imagine the market opens up and it gaps up there. So if the market opens up here, all of that analysis and all that hard work you kind of did is thrown out of the window. But of course, we got to show up. We got to draw our expectations. So that is gold, a little bit more short biased. So let's see how it plays out. It's also going to really depend on the DXY and all the US news that we're going to be getting this week. CPI, unemployment claims, PPI, all of that stuff we have to track. Damn, USD JPY also very chopped up. So we had that weekly bullish imbalance. This one got tapped and then we fulfilled the liquidity. And then after that, we are not doing anything this week. We came below the previous weekly low, swept it, printing a bullish candle. Okay, dropping onto, wow, this is wow, look at that week. That is an extremely choppy week here. So we can expect maybe next week to give us some sort of a breakout. Now it's pretty tricky because we're just getting that daily bearish imbalance here. And the market could tap, it could reverse. However, if you just very briefly look at structure, okay, and I don't look at structure like extremely refined, like try to find all these small breaks. What is the market doing? Made a high, higher low, higher high. Could that be a higher low? Well, yes, it could be until we break, of course, below that low and we establish below it. Then we're going to have a lower low and we can be looking for a lower high. As simple as that, okay? Here you have the same, right? The market made a low, it made a lower high. We try to short that. Then the market tries to push, it creates a market structure shift. Then it makes a high, it starts printing higher low formations. Then potentially no, we're flipping a little bit bullish, okay? So currently we don't have that yet. We're still bullish in higher lows and higher highs. So this daily imbalance is extremely interesting. I say I have an alert here even, but the market didn't seem to tap it this week. So it's pretty hard to say anything at this point in time. It can absolutely break below right now, even without tapping that daily imbalance. It can tap into the daily and reject, or it can absolutely engulf the daily. We don't know. Dropping on the 4-hourly time frame to maybe try to get some signs. There was, by the way, a beautiful short trade on the Monday. This 4-hourly bearish imbalance into the liquidity, the market got tapped. Absolutely beautiful trade right there on a Monday. And then after Monday, it started chopping like crazy. Currently, what do we have is we have a 4-hourly bullish here. So can that 4-hourly bullish guide us into the daily? That would be a beautiful kind of intraday setup, or intro. No, it's not intro week, but a very nice setup that I would really like to take, trading from a higher time frame zone into a higher time frame zone. If this, okay, so this 4-hourly zone can actually act as this deciding point. Like if we tap in and then if we actually break it, then this is going to expose the liquidity at the lows. But if we tap it and we actually start respecting it, then that is very likely going to expose that daily imbalance. Then of course we have, okay, this liquidity got taken. So yeah, the only liquidity that is left is that high, but that is actually the high of the daily imbalance open. Okay, so that is how I'm going to just look at the USD JPY. Not much to look at, but we do have a daily zone to target and maybe short from, and we have a hourly zone to work with right now. So let's see. Let's see, 1 hourly time frame, nothing, pretty chopped up closure of Friday. So let's see a short-term bullish bias maybe into the daily, and then from the daily we have to see if it's gonna short off, or if the market actually opens pretty bearish and immediately starts printing the bearish order flow, it could go down. Now, if the Japanese yen starts to strengthen again, because of tariffs, because of uncertainty, okay, we can start seeing USD JPY go down. Okay, so that is kind of going to be a little bit of a macro scenario, but I'm still a little bit 50-50 because of that. And you can also see that within price action, how can you not be 50-50 when you see this consolidation? You're not getting clear clarity yet. Okay, so let us wait for it. Let's see what it wants to do, and then of course we're going to flow when it's clear and when it shouts. Euro JPY, let's have a quick look. So we're actually, no, we're not. We tapped the weekly here, so that is not correct. However, we tapped into the lower weekly. So it's an extremely small zone. I can't even draw it, but we're going to take it. And we're having a very nice bullish reaction. And even on the daily time frame, we're having a daily bullish imbalance. So this is kind of a price action that immediately shouts like weekly bullish and then nothing bearish to stop price. Then suddenly the daily gets bearish and we have clear liquidity targets. Like all I can say on Euro Yen is longs right now. However, I can be very quickly invalidated. Very tricky scenario. We're having 4 hourly bullish here. So there is a decision point here. Is the market going to pop up from that 4 hourly and attack the liquidity, or is it going to fail the 4 hourly and get us into the daily and then maybe from the daily shift and attack the liquidity, okay? So 2 scenarios here. We either start seeing some pop from that 4 hourly zone, but looking at how this candle closed, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence. So you can do, wow, you can do so many things with Euro Yen right here. But again, guys, it really depends on how the market's going to open. If it opens up and it makes a 4 hourly bearish imbalance here, you can look to short into liquidity number 1, and then liquidity number 2 is going to be the daily. Okay, that is actually a short setup into the long zone. But if the market starts invalidating that 4 hourly imbalance and starts printing maybe 1 hourly bullish, you can immediately go for the liquidity. Okay, so you can do so many things, but what we have to do is we have to allow for Monday to play out, honestly, because it was also a Bank of Japan holiday, so bank holiday. I wouldn't push it. However, this is Euro Yen. I would say on the macro scheme of things, it looks like really nice longs. Weekly is bullish, daily is bullish, and 4 hourly is bullish. Now, of course, the decision point, is it going to pop from here, from the 4 hourly, or is it going to go a little bit lower and then build the bullish bias again and target the liquidity? Let us see. This, again, we cannot know. We can only wait for the market to develop and, of course, trade what we see. We saw how GU was a lot more powerful than EU, and we can see it with GJ as well. Like, look at that very nice candle here. On the daily time frame, we are absolutely invalidating that daily bearish imbalance, and we are printing a daily bullish. We're getting very close, for example, to the next liquidity target. So looking pretty nicely bullish. Dropping onto the 4 hourly time frame, we also have a 4 hourly zone here. Yeah, shouts longs to me. Now, of course, we have to see how it's going to play out. We are going to need some sort of a zone to trade from. So currently the first zone that we're going to be encountering, hopefully, is that 4 hourly. So are we going to go higher from the 4 hourly? That is the main question. Or can we actually form, oh, we can actually form a daily bullish as well. So we can put on a line here. That is going to be our, oh, goddamn, so many lines here. So that is going to be our daily invalidation line. Okay, so if the market actually crosses that daily line, that is going to give me even more bearish bias. Maybe we go towards that low. But if we actually make a daily bullish imbalance on Monday, that is going to be really nice to see the market go higher later in the week. Okay, so on Monday, we do not want for price to tap this line here. If it taps it, that is a little bit more bearish sign because it's going to look pretty bearish, and then we might attack the low. But if it doesn't tap it, and maybe if it starts responding from that 4 hourly bullish zone, we can immediately target the liquidity. And then, of course, another situation will be for the market to just start expanding. Could that happen? Absolutely yes. Anything could happen in the market, but of course then we very likely won't be able to catch an opportunity, especially pretty much with the way how I trade, because I always trade from zones. I don't do breakouts on Forex. But yeah, here a very lovely zone here as well. 4 hourly zone tapped in, beautiful run. Not bad. 4 hourly zone here. When is that? Tuesday. Beautiful run as well. Not, wait a second, Tuesday, Thursday. Yeah. Not bad on GJ. Very strong development here. We probably see that JPY strengthening, and then in this case GBP USD was was also strengthening. So that is exactly the time when the majors, when the crosses are going to work out. Okay, because right now everybody's buying Japanese yen because it's a safe haven, but also GU right now seems to be going up because of the DXY is flushing. So USD JPY is going to be choppy. Meanwhile, EJ and GJ are going to go very good. This is the only time that these two pairs are going to work. Okay, when USD JPY consolidates, and when you have, for example, GU and EU starting to increase a lot, and then you have, for example, people buying a lot of Japanese yen because of the uncertainty, and then you have beautiful runs. So let's see if that is going to continue. But yeah, it gives me very, very bullish bias. That is the zone. If it starts forming any new zones, we can definitely follow it. Let's see if it's going to continue with that bullishness. All right, index futures next. ES, let's have a look. Weekly time frame, very nice candle. So we had a little sell-off here. We just came to collect a little bit of liquidity, and right now it looks like it's trying to flip around again. All-time highs on the horizon. Going on to the daily time frame, well, yeah, we had a massive flush on Friday. Monday immediately recovered. And then we had kind of two 50-50 days, like sell Tuesday, then buy Wednesday, and then Thursday kind of went a little bit crazy. And then Friday there was one very nice trade for the longs. Yes, if you ask me, I would say longs, right? It's not as strong as I want it to be. However, the market is right now going up. And if you go to the quality time frame as well, like I don't trade indices how I trade, for example, Forex and gold, okay? Because here, no, don't get me wrong, I do utilize exactly the same things. However, I trade with a slightly different approach. So I wouldn't necessarily say, hey, I'm gonna long from that quality zone here, I'm gonna look for longs. Okay, no, I'm gonna be extremely careful, and I'm only gonna be waiting for a specific time to see is the market gonna respect it or not. And I'm gonna be trading failures of imbalances. I'm gonna be trading failures of this imbalance, for example, how it failed, and then I target this. It's a very fluid approach, okay? And all I need to do is just show up and read my market understanding, because what I have and what I also teach my members is a market understanding. Okay, of course we have the strategy part, okay, but if you actually understand how we think about the market and like what is our market dynamic and our market paradigm, you can be extremely flexible and trade it any way you want. Okay, now very close to this liquidity point. We're getting very nicely there. Quality time frame, definitely bullish. However, again, in this case, I wouldn't say, hey, I would look for the market to pull back into that quality and go up. No, I would read whatever happens right now, because the market might sweep that and then it might print something on the 1 hourly bearish. Then I'm going to trade short into this quality zone. And then I'm going to observe if that quality zone is going to hold. And if it doesn't hold, I'm going to trade into the next one. And then if the next one doesn't hold, I'm going to trade to the liquidity. Okay, it's very, very flexible. Very flexible. So currently, more of a long bias, of course, so we really have to wait and see how it is going to develop, what is actually going to be happening after this liquidity is taken, because we're extremely close to that liquidity. I believe that we could potentially tap it. And then, of course, the key question is, are we going to stay above it? So are we going to make an imbalance above and like continue higher towards all-time highs? So that could look something like that. Let's say maybe we tap into that forward reaction area, give a little bit of a reaction, and then tackle all-time highs. Or are we gonna go above, sweep it, and then start pulling back into these levels? And then after we tap into these zones here, then of course it's a decision point. Are we gonna go long from there? Or is the market gonna fail them and then potentially start going short again? Because within this, it's not that it's uncertain, but yeah, it actually is. You just never know what kind of sentiment is gonna kick in. You never know what Trump is gonna do. 1 week we're absolutely dying right here, and then we're having a whole week the market is actually starting to recover. Just when you think the market is like selling off, but that was just a dip. Like this, a very nice dip of almost 4%. I should have bought some stocks on a 3.5% dip, but I did not, and the market is already from the bottom almost 3% up. Okay, so I do believe we're going maybe towards all-time highs. The optimism is resuming in the market. Currently, we are actually into greedy territory if you look at the Fear and Greed Index. So I'm long bias. However, I can be taking shorts. I took shorts on Thursday. I took longs on Friday. I don't remember what I did on Wednesday. Yeah, longs on Wednesday as well. Okay, so every single day it changes. I'm only gonna be trading one quality candle. Here I traded this candle, here I traded this candle, here I traded this candle. So this day is short, this day is long, this day is short, okay, and this day was long. So constantly flipping the direction. So having a hard time frame bias for me and how I trade the futures is not as important, but knowing the levels and the liquidity, that is the important part. So of course, let's see how it develops. Well, yeah, tech stocks carrying the markets already. I spotted this week that a lot of times ES was a lot weaker. It was giving better shorts, and Nasdaq was actually not really weak. But right now we can see that Nas is actually quite strong. This is why. So all-time high liquidity. We just had 1 week of a flush, and then the next week is already recovering. On the daily time frame, we actually have a daily bullish imbalance that again signifies a lot of pressure. So I can say one simple thing: we probably are going to be going and taking the all-time highs. So let's see. That's a pretty big statement to make, of course, but daily bullish, hourly absolutely bullish. Now if we do get any sort of pullback into these hourly zones, into this overall zone here, it could be a very nice short. Like everything is taken to the left. The only thing that is left is that zone, and we can see that this zone is not giving a much of a reaction. So any sort of pullback here, any sort of bearish day or any sort of bearish price action into the lows, I am personally going to be focused on longs, and then of course targeting the all-time highs, because when all-time highs is taken, it's always a hard time. For example, here, like when we're kind of always like take all-time highs, okay, then towards all-time highs, okay, here it's bad, then we take again, okay, what do you do? Then of course always trading towards all-time highs is better. And then of course after we made that massive flush, and then when you see the market starting to change, of course, then this week was a golden opportunity to potentially look to trade long into all-time highs, because right now we have an established direction and you potentially know, hey, the market resumed the uptrend. So let's see any pullbacks, anything that we get bearish, potentially we can be looking for longs. However, on Monday I might short it, because if all of my technicals align for shorts and I have zones to target and liquidity to target, I'm going to be shorting. Every single day I kind of have a different bias on the indices, which is a little bit crazy, but I always try to trade, of course, with the hard time frame narrative. So that is Nasdaq looking for all-time highs. Well, YM or US 30, why are you still lagging behind? Like it hasn't taken all-time highs yet. That is pretty crazy, but of course it's just 30 companies, maybe that is why. So we had this weekly zone, and that weekly zone actually got invalidated here, but we're also invalidating a new weekly bearish imbalance. That is a slightly bullish sign, but a very slow week. And yeah, then you can see it on the daily time frame. It's been a chop. Okay, so I don't know the companies on top of my mind that comprise the US 30 index, but not a good time to be trading US 30. Nasdaq all-time highs, ES being a lot stronger, YM is just chopping. So what can I say about that one? It has daily bearish. It still hasn't really shown signs of failing that daily bearish. It did make a lower high, so that could potentially mean the market might want to flush. I don't know. I wouldn't really short it based on the rest, but for example, what you can see right now is we had a very nice flush, and the market is actually failing that imbalance. So what I can say right now, if I'm intraday trading that, I will target that high. So if we, for example, start getting some longs here towards that high, I would look to participate, although I do not trade US 30. I also don't trade Nasdaq, but I look at Nasdaq a lot because it kind of helps me a little bit with ES. But yeah, so this is US 30. I don't like it because it's pretty choppy. That means that there is still something weak in the market. It's not committing really to all-time highs. And if US 30 is not committing, that there is something smelly for the rest. However, that's not true. I mean, Nasdaq is, when did it take all-time highs? It took all-time highs right here. There are the all-time highs. It took them on July 1st. And since July 1st, we've been making all-time highs all the time. YM, where was it in July 1st? There it is. Nowhere. Look at where the all-time highs are. Nowhere close. Okay, so while ES and incurred are making all-time highs, but YM is not, that again doesn't mean something is smelly. It just means that the companies that are comprising that index are not doing as well as the tech companies within Nasdaq, and of course as the 500 companies within the ES index. So that is US 30. I'm not trading it, but if I am to ask what I would look for, I would look for longs towards that liquidity. Quick look at DAX, another index that I do not trade. Massive sell-off last week, this week starting to recover, dropping onto the daily time frame. We kind of looked like just for the moment that sellers really took control, but it seems like it was just manipulation, because right now we are failing all of these daily bearish imbalances, and we just printed a daily bullish on Friday. That this to me exposes this liquidity here, and then of course the rest of the liquidity levels above. If we do have a pullback into that daily, it will be pretty good. So potentially pull back into the daily and attacking the liquidity. Wow, That was nice, quick and simple for 30 seconds. That is what I'm looking for. Of course, I can already start overcomplicating it right now. Say that, hey, if that daily bearish fails, then of course I'm going to be targeting the liquidity to the lows. But if you have been watching me right now for a while, you know how I analyze and you know how I trade. I haven't shared many trade breakdowns. Maybe I do soon. But yeah. So of course, if that daily taps, I'm gonna look for longs. If that daily fails, I'm gonna look for shorts, targeting the opposing side of the liquidity down there. But I do prefer longs. I do see that the market is starting to resume a little bit with optimism. So if you ask me what I'm looking for DAX, it's gonna be longs. If in case the market doesn't form a lower high right there, and of course it doesn't start flushing, but of course this is where we're gonna see that, and it's gonna be pretty clear if it does it. So DAX long bias. To conclude, I am overall uncertain regarding the DXY's outcome, and I am never certain of things because all I trade with is a probabilistic mindset and just possibilities, of course, but it doesn't give me a lot of confidence within the direction because there are so many conflicting factors. If you look at structure, it's making higher highs and higher lows. If you look at the order flow and the recent momentum, it's actually making daily bearish imbalances. So I do like shorts a little bit more on the DXY, and these are kind of the scenarios that I have for the short setup. So a short DXY is going to be long on EU, and EU also has a daily bullish imbalance. It's also kind of having a little bit of a bullish order flow. So let's see if that is going to sustain, or are we going to make yet another lower high right there and sell out? Because here it also looked like it was going pretty bullish, but then suddenly something happened here on a Monday. We opened on a Monday and we made a lower low on Monday. Okay, so guys, please do not have any expectations. Just follow the market. But overall, long here, GU looking like beautiful longs, daily imbalances, climbing very higher. Looking for example, for that liquidity point right here, looks pretty good for longs. Aussie dollar and NZD dollar also a little bit uncertain. They're not as strong as, for example, GU is. They're a little bit compressed. However, Aussie dollar and NZD dollar both have a daily bullish imbalance. So let's see if that holds. And if it fails, we of course are going to flip to shorts. Gold is, I'm more long bias on gold just based on the very recent developments within tariffs, and of course the market starting to feel a little bit more uncertain once again, and then immediately money flows into the yen. Okay, but yeah, massive sweep here on daily, not extremely clear, especially on the futures chart, which is the chart that I am using. Forward a little bearish imbalance with a daily bullish below us. My immediate kind of outcome will be pull back short into the daily, and then from that daily I will be looking to see if buyers are going to take over or if sellers are going to start persisting to potentially guide us towards taking some liquidity. Again, no certain outcome. All we have to do is just wait for the market to open and follow it. USD JPY, absolute chop this week. Very big indecision. So we have a daily imbalance above us. We can trade into that forward bullish and pop into the daily, and then after the daily, what is going to happen? We don't know. But I'm more bearish here because if the DXY is also bearish, then that one should be also pushing lower a little bit more. And if the yen is going to get stronger, which we have been seeing getting stronger because of Euro yen popping higher and GBP yen popping higher. GBP yen looking like a beautiful long setup. Euro yen as well has a daily bullish imbalance coming from a weekly bullish with a forward bullish as well. We just have to see which one is going to hold. Indices looking for all-time highs already. ES is a little bit further away, but of course any kind of long setups that we get, we can potentially expect all-time highs potentially. Okay, don't expect anything. Nasdaq is getting very, very, very close. So if you are trading Nasdaq, any sort of pullback into these zones or any sort of bearish day that you might have, it could potentially be setting up for a high. All-time high. And then US 30 is still lagging behind. It's a very kind of weekend and stuff. It still has a very long time way to go towards all-time highs, but I'm having a very short-term long setup here. And DAX as well, starting to very slowly align to the bullish side after a flush. So let's see if it's actually going to recover. We're looking at that daily imbalance here to see if it's going to hold. So overall for the dollar pairs and for the major pairs, not extreme clarity. Gold, I am also kind of scalping. I don't want to say scalp because I'm not scalping it, but I'm trading it more in the lower time frames, trying to capitalize a session move, not an intraday move, but a session move. So I don't care that much about the higher time frame buys. But my plan is going to be to wait for Monday to play out, see where the DXY is going to take me, give me a little bit more clarity, wait for the Tuesday news. Was it? Yeah, Tuesday is CPI for the dollar. So wait for that to get out, and then I'm going to flow and see where the market is going to take me. If it's looking good, I will try to produce a flow in the markets on Wednesday. So everybody, hope you had a wonderful week. Wishing you good trading in the month of August. You're of course going to hopefully go and enjoy some summer holidays as well. But always stay focused on the charts. Let me know how you did this week, and I'm going to talk to you in the next video.